All right, Lone Star Gunners, welcome to the podcast. This is Lone Star Gun Talk, the official podcast of Lone Star Gun Rights, and I am your humble host, as always, Derek Wills. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Go ahead and chime on in comments where you were watching from. Please pardon my appearance this evening. This is the last time I go work out before a show. I didn't even think about it. I was like, yeah, there's plenty of time to get a quick ride on the bike in and, then I can clean up, and I did, and I still look gross. So I apologize, guys. This won't ever happen again. So we got Jesus from Arizona, Kevin from Marietta, Texas, Paul, my good friend Paul, Camden from Denver. Thank you so much for watching. Ed from Arkansas, Jesus from Dallas, Cameron from the Panhandle. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Things are crazy, guys. I don't know if y'all watched last week's episode whenever I had Phil Rabelais and Andrew Bobo on, and we talked prepping. And, at the time, things were very different, at the time, the biggest thing was, are we going to be able to find toilet paper ever again? Now it's gotten crazy. It has gotten to the point of, it has gotten to the point where I'm kind of scared as to what the government is actually doing. The stock market has been tumbling. The economy is just getting clobbered. We have businesses being ordered to close all across the country, all across the state. And we have, in various states, we have mandatory stay-at-home orders. And we have here in Texas kind of this quasi-martial law, if you will. Chris asked, do you think it'll come to martial law? And, we're pretty much there, if you really think about it. We've been getting quite a bit of heat lately because of the posts that we've put up, hammering, as we call him, King Abbott for everything that he's been doing. And there's been a lot of people that decided that Governor Abbott's doing everything he can, and he's doing what needs to be done in order to get this virus under control. And, to be completely honest, it's not worth it. What is happening is people's liberties, what few liberties we have left in this country, are going by the wayside. Our generation, my generation, the millennial generation, Gen X, the baby boomers, have never actually known liberty in this country. And it would probably be a safe bet to say that generations before them didn't actually know what liberty was. We've gotten to a point in this country where we are so conditioned to believing what we have as liberty that the government can issue these orders and very little impact is actually put on people's lives outside of, I get to stay home from work now. Which is, don't get me wrong, most people aren't celebrating that they're staying home from work. They're wondering how they're going to pay their bills. And that in and of itself is something that's very, very awful. These people's livelihoods are being destroyed by this. And I'm asking, is it worth it? Paul brings up a great point. Chambers County issued a curfew starting from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. starts on Tuesday. That's tomorrow. Curfew starts at 10 p.m. That sounds like martial law. My wife and I, my wife had never seen V for Vendetta. And last night I asked if she would like to watch it. It had been a while since I last saw V for Vendetta. And if you haven't seen it in a while, or if you've never seen it, go and watch it right now. Not right now, because the show's going on. But after the show, go and watch V for Vendetta. There are so many parallels as to what's happening right now. It's almost scary. The movie is very prophetic. The only major difference is that it takes place in England, except another thing is the U.S. in this timeline is undergoing a second civil war, so, what have you. Jeff says, our liberty is evidently hidden in a cave in Afghanistan. True story. So let's talk about the virus. Let's talk about what's happening. Let's talk about what the governor is doing. Let's talk about what these counties are doing. And I'm going to give you my input on what I think is actually going on. Now, some of you might find this to be tinfoil hatty. And to be honest, I really don't care. I'd rather wear a tinfoil hat than, lick boots. But that's just me. Tammy asks, why a curfew? Because, Tammy, if you don't know, the virus gets spread faster at night. That's why there's a curfew. Don't you know this? Randy says, hello from Tennessee. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bud from Texas. Sheriff Buford T. Justice, if that is your real name. Hello, sir. So let's talk about the virus. I want to show you something, and I have made a couple of these graphics, and a lot of people, well, not everybody, not a lot, some people, mind you, have thought that this is that we don't get it, or that we're fudging the numbers, or whatever. This is worldwide. I want to show you guys this. I posted this on our Facebook. This is worldwide as of this evening at 5:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time, so 2 hours ago. As of 5:30 this evening, 99.995066% of the world did not have coronavirus confirmed in them. 0.003402% have confirmed cases, and from that number, I subtracted those that have recovered and those that have passed away. Of the world, the 7.6 billion people that are currently on the planet, 0.000215% of the global population has died. Now, I'm not going to make light of the fact that these people are dying. It's tragic. Every life is precious and should not have to undergo a death like this. But this is in the world. This is the globe. This is this is everything. This is China. This is Italy. This is the United States. This is every country that is infected with this COVID-19. And if you really look at it, and if you go to the U.S. numbers, we're shutting down our economy for this. This right here. In the United States, as of today, March 23rd, 2020, at 5:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time, 99.98686% of Americans do not have a confirmed case of coronavirus. 0.01292% do. And 0.00016% have died. Now, one thing that's a little odd, 0.00005% have recovered. But we're shutting down our economy. We're shutting down our state for something that has affected 1.3 hundredths of 1% of the population. Something that has taken the life of 16 hundred thousandths of 1% have died from it. Now, again, this is not to make light of the fact that people are dying from this. This is the fact that, think about what we are doing. Think about what is being done. Businesses are ordering to be closed. People's livelihoods are being destroyed. Both their businesses that they've started, the companies that they work for being forced to shut down, and also any savings that they have in the stock market. Now, I'm a firm believer, you don't lose anything until you sell. But not everybody believes that. There were people during the Great Depression that killed themselves. Many people who killed themselves because of the Great Depression. They didn't think that things were going to come back. Their fortunes were gone. The savings that they had put together were gone. People's 401ks are gone. And this is what we're doing it for. And I say we, I mean the government. And not to mention, President Trump, the Republicans in Congress are pushing a $1.8 trillion stimulus bill. This is all money that has never been allocated for. This is new debt. The Democrats are wanting a $2.5 trillion stimulus package. You know what's happening? The Federal Reserve is taking custody of brand new bonds, printing money, distributing it to banks, and we are going to be, quote, getting a $1,000 or $1,200 check. This is not money that exists right now. It's being fabricated. Now, if you're of the libertarian mindset, you think taxation is theft, and, well, you wouldn't need a $1,200 stimulus check if the government didn't tax the crap out of us already. And that's, quite frankly, that's true. But again, look at what's happening. Now let's go to the governor's comments. Yesterday, the governor came out, and on Friday, he also came out again, and he's talking about his executive order. His executive order orders certain businesses to be closed. That's dine-in restaurants, but you can carry out. And you can carry out alcohol. Thank goodness. Thank you for that liberty, sir. Dine-in restaurants, gyms, what else is there? Nursing homes. Jeff points out that it's fiat currency. It's not money. Yeah, there's a big difference between currency and money, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. We have we have all of these businesses being ordered to close. That is people that are no longer able to work. They are no longer earning an income because of this. We are shutting down visitation to nursing homes and retirement centers. So the elderly who have worked their entire life can't see their grandchildren. We have a prohibition on gatherings of 10 or more people. Your right to assemble right now does not exist unless there are only 9 people there. And we have people that are actively calling for a mandatory shelter in place. Now, let me tell you exactly what the governor said. He said that if we don't follow this, and he reiterated several times that this is not mandatory. But he also followed it up by saying that if you do not follow this, if you do not adhere to the 10 or more people prohibition, if you do not adhere to closing your business down, ending your livelihood, shutting down your life, if you do not adhere to this, he will institute more aggressive policies. And that could include mandatory quarantine from the state, also known as house arrest. It also would include 180 days in jail and a $1,000 fine. That sounds mandatory to me. It makes no difference if I tell you, do not leave your home or I will invoke violence upon you. Or if I tell you, do not leave your home or I will threaten to invoke violence on you. They are the exact same thing. Just because it is not, quote, mandatory does not mean that it isn't mandatory. His language, his own words, says that he will institute more aggressive policies, enforcement mechanisms. The National Guard has already been deployed and activated. It wouldn't surprise me if we had National Guard checkpoints all up and down. Now, here's something that not a lot of people know. Excuse me. Here at Lone Star Gun Rights, nobody here takes a salary. We are all volunteers. Now, we would like to get to the point where we can take a salary. I would love to be able to do this for my full-time job. But none of us do at the moment because every resource that we raise, every fund that we raise goes to support our mission. So I have a day job. My day job, and I would normally not tell any personal details, but I think this is important. I work for Lockheed Martin. And this is not me representing Lockheed in any way, so if you're a Lockheed employee, please don't go and holler at somebody and try and get me fired. Today, at work, I was given a letter that I am to carry on my person to tell law enforcement, should they stop me, that I am exempt from the executive order because I am, quote-unquote, critical infrastructure. I work for the Defense Department. I am exempt. Basically, I got a freedom letter today. Think about this for a second. I got a letter that exempts me from the executive order that Governor Abbott has signed. Now, why would I need such a letter if it wasn't mandatory? How many of you got letters from your place of work? Probably not many. And you know what? It's really sad to think about it. Jose says he has the same thing. He's a semi-truck driver. Jose, you, sir, thank you for everything that you do. Because without you guys, without truckers, oh man, things would be way worse than they are now. So let me put this into perspective. I have to carry papers on me to tell law enforcement or the National Guard or whoever wants to stop me that I am okay to be out and about during this non-mandatory shelter in place. Now, there are other places that are issuing mandatory shelter in places. We brought up earlier the curfew. Where was that? I forgot. I know Waco is instituting curfew and mandatory shelter in place. Dallas County has done the same thing. Harris County is on their way to doing it. I believe Tarrant County is doing the same thing. Okay, Robert. Since you want to be smart. Robert says, unless you have a plan on what to do, quit your bitching. Sorry for the language. His words, not mine. I do have a plan on what to do. I'm not suggesting that we take up arms against the government, but I would suggest that you stand up for your rights. Stand up for what you believe in. If you find yourself in a situation where a government authority figure is challenging you while you're doing something that you have a natural right to do, then you need to stand up for yourself. And I'll leave it at that for now. Brennan, he says our constitutional rights are being infringed upon. I will take one issue with what you're saying, and that is we don't have constitutional rights. We have natural rights. The Constitution doesn't matter what it says, because these rights exist beyond government. The Constitution doesn't grant them. They are natural to us. They exist in nature. And yes, you're right. Those natural rights are being infringed upon by a government that has no authority to do so. Chime in with your questions, guys. I know that we got a lot. There was a lot of questions concerning what about the disaster carry bill that passed last session. Can we carry without a license right now? The answer is no, because that bill requires you to be evacuating or returning to your home. Since the entire state is in has been declared a state of emergency, there is no evacuation order. Therefore, you do not have, you do have the right, but the government doesn't acknowledge your right to bear arms, specifically a handgun on your person without a permission slip. And this is what we are trying to, fix in the legislature, and we've been fighting to fix for the past 4 sessions now. What do you guys think about all of this? Oh, here's something I want to share with you as well. I showed you the United States and the globe. Italy has been one of those that has been hit the hardest by all of this. Italy is constantly in the news about all of this. Here are Italy's numbers. Think about this, guys. Italy, 99.89430% do not have coronavirus. 0.08336% have a confirmed case. 0.01005% have died. And this is what we are shutting down the nation for. Just think about that. So yes, whenever I say that Greg Abbott is absolutely acting like a tyrant, acting like a king. He is. Because people's livelihoods are being destroyed. The government's solution, quote unquote, to this virus is far worse than the virus ever could be. There are no doubt going to be people who take their lives, who get arrested, who have their entire lives destroyed because of what the government's solution to this problem is. If you guys got questions, go ahead and chime on in. I'm not going to sit here and beat this dead horse too long, but I did want to I did want to bring you guys up to speed on what is happening. I do foresee, this is what I think is going to happen. Right now, you have all of these counties going through issuing their own restrictions, issuing shelter-in-place, stay-at-home orders, instituting curfews. I honestly believe, and I don't have anything to back this up, this is speculation, but I honestly believe that all of these are coming from the governor's office because he wants to be able to keep his hands clean from this. Notice all of the cities that are doing it are left-wing run, and they are, they're more than happy to do it. So whenever the governor's like, "Hey, I need y'all to do this," oh yeah, sure, I'll be more than happy to. And my theory is, we'll see if this comes to fruition. My theory is that whenever all of the major cities, all of the counties with the major cities institute their lockdowns, that's whenever the order from the state will come down. Because it won't change all that much from anybody else. The rural areas will be hit from that, but that will be it. Most people will be already in a place of quarantine, self-quarantine, whatever you want to call it. That's my idea. That's my theory of what's going on. And to be quite honest, I would not be surprised in the slightest if this is actually coming from higher up, if this is coming from the White House. I mean, keep in mind, Donald Trump has been all over the place on this. He downplayed it at first. Then he said everything's going to be fine. It's going to be eradicated soon. And then the numbers keep going, quote unquote, up. Again, relatively low, still incredibly low. But he's been kind of all over the place. And then he activates the National Guard yesterday in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. And I forget who it was, but one of the people on his staff at the press conference yesterday basically said, "Hey, if you hoarded a bunch of supplies, if you went and panic bought hand sanitizer, toilet paper, whatever, sell them back to us. We'll give you a fair price for them, or we're going to come and confiscate them." I'm like, oh, really? Oh, that's great. I don't understand what that would prove, what that would benefit, because as far as I know, the supply chains are all good. Oh, here's another thing that kind of came. Here's another thing that really kind of threw me off with what exactly is going on, because the stimulus bill has failed 2 or 3 times now, and okay, so the stimulus bill has failed 2 or 3 times now. Democrats have killed it every time. And now I heard on Facebook that President Trump just said America will open up businesses again in a matter of weeks, not months. So here's an interesting thing that makes me wonder why this whole thing, it makes me wonder that this whole thing is fabricated or created, if you will. Not the virus, but the paranoia, the panic, all of that. We needed, according to the federal government, we needed $1 trillion, $1.5 trillion, $1.8 trillion to recover the economy. And when that failed consecutively today and yesterday, now the president comes out and says, oh, businesses are going to reopen in weeks, not months. What's changed? Because if this is as big of a deal as you say it is, certainly changing something from lasting months to lasting weeks has to have been something big and noteworthy. So what is it? Did we somehow eradicate it already? It's interesting to think about because, I mean, I'm not big on conspiracy theories, guys, but it's pretty obvious that the government is trying to control this in all certain different ways. How do you go from it being, oh, it's going to last, 12 weeks, it's going to last 18 months. Oh, no, it's going to be over in like 3 weeks. It's fine. It's fine. We figured it out, guys. But you haven't passed the stimulus that you said we needed. Do you still need the stimulus? Or you already issued the bonds. So the debt is already going to increase. What are you going to do with that debt? Where is that money going that you already further enslaved us with? Tiffany asks, so this isn't all about the virus, correct? It's an attack on our rights. Absolutely. I don't disagree. Here's the thing. There's a lot of people don't seem to, not you guys, but other people don't seem to understand. Our criticism isn't about the advice that's being given. It's not, everybody should be washing their hands. If you're sick, stay home. Don't sneeze on your neighbor. That should be something we all practice. I'm not upset at the government coming out and saying, guys, you guys need to do these things. You should do these things. Our problem that we have in this country is you need to do these things or else. Because that's the very definition of tyranny. And one thing to keep in mind, tyrannical governments never in the history of the world have tyrannical governments become tyrannical without citing, quote, for the good of the people. They never instituted tyranny without the support from the people. History shows us that people loved the ideas that were being thrown around whenever every single government in the history of ever has become tyrannical. And, this is just another thing. Watch what happens when all of this is said and done. Watch what happens whenever Congress can, the new session starts and Congress starts pushing another bill to limit our liberty even further. The North American Aboriginal Society of Canada says, here from Canada, your government and my government are doing the exact same thing and the exact same thing verbatim. Something more than this fake flu is happening. You're absolutely right. I don't think, Jake also says it's population control, it's a bioweapon. I don't necessarily think that because the mortality rate is incredibly low. Everybody wants to say it's, 4% or 1.5%. Keep in mind, guys, there are probably a lot more people that are actually infected than we know about, but that only drives the mortality rate down because you can bet that the mortality numbers are actually solid. Kyle asked, how many mass shootings will be blamed on panic buying guns when this is over? That is a very good question. That, sir, my hat is off to you. I would, but I got headphones on. But figuratively, my hat is off to you, sir. That is a great question to ask. I don't know. But I promise something is going to come out of this. The government is going to use this the same way they used 9/11 and the same way they have used every other national tragedy to strip us of what little liberty we have left. And that I promise that's what's going to happen. Mike says the sad part is that 90% of the country's population want the shelter in place. It's all over Facebook and Twitter. And you're right. And the thing is, Shelter in place. If you want to shelter in place, shelter in place. But you people that support this shelter in place, the mandatory shelter in place, you have zero authority. You have zero right to use the government as a weapon to threaten violence against those who do not think like you. If you want to shelter in place, by all means do so. I want to shelter in place. Not because I really fear the virus. I fear the government more than I fear the virus. I fear what people are going to do as a result of the panic than the virus itself. But, you know, and that's why I'm staying at home and sheltering as much as I can, although I do have a job that is critical infrastructure. Anyway. And Brennan says, basically summing it all up. If I want to risk my life, it's mine to do so. You are absolutely right. Anyway, guys, I think I've gone on long enough chatting your ears off. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Thank you for being here and engaging in the discussion. I hope that all of you stay safe. I hope all of you have everything that you need. Let's all unite on this. And let's stand up for our rights. Until next Sunday, Lone Star Gunners, arm yourself with knowledge and share the ammo. Take care.